So I pitched this concept of a podcast to the Just Media Network where it was about life with chronic illness, not chronic illness and life. And that like little nuance is so important to me because I think a lot of people get bogged down in your illness defining everything about you and your life.
Yeah.
So easy to. I mean, like you wake up every morning with symptoms and you're navigating that and it touches every little tentacle of your life. But life is so much more full than that. And there are ways that you can kind of push it around and not let it be in the driver's seat. So that was what I kind of set off to explain and to get people around to talk about. And every time I went to any kind of like social media website or Facebook group, it was doom and gloom and a bunch of like 70-year-old men that were complaining about their joints hurting. And I just thought, that's not the most relatable thing to me. So besides the joints hurting like that, we can talk about that one for sure.
Join me, Sasha Peters, on Women in the Nude, Season 2, where we bear it all except for our bodies. Leave that to your imagination. Welcome to Women in the Nude. I'm so glad that you're here. Alex Wildeson.
Yes. Hello.
New friend, and I already feel like we are going to have an amazing friendship. You are such a cool person, not just in general, the way that you correspond. You're just like so genuine and easygoing, but on top of it, you are such a badass. Every time I speak to you, I find out something new, something cool. Not only are you a huge advocate for women's health, for chronic illness, for just in general doing what you can to be the best version of yourself, you're also amazing in business. And I'm so excited to just kind of go on this journey with you and basically find any way that we can collaborate. So thank you so much for joining me.
Likewise.
I have no worries that we are going to have a good conversation. I have a couple of fun things to ask you, but honestly, just in general, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you have a podcast called Calling in Sick.
I do.
Which is, first of all, an amazing name. I love that name so much. On the flip side, I'm sad that you have to deal with everything that you have to deal with. But I do love that you've created such an amazing community for people that are dealing with things that are similar. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
What made you want to start that?
A couple of reasons. One, I had been, long story short, I had been on medical leave, calling in sick from work, got incredibly bored at home being the type A person that I am, and decided, what should I do during medical leave? I should launch a business because that's what I'm supposed to be doing during this time. So I pitched this concept of a podcast to the Just Media Network where it was about life with chronic illness, not chronic illness and life. And that like little nuance is so important to me because I think a lot of people get bogged down in your illness defining everything about you and your life.
Yeah.
So easy to. I mean, like you wake up every morning with symptoms and you're navigating that and it touches every little tentacle of your life. But life is so much more full than that. And there are ways that you can kind of push it around and not let it be in the driver's seat. So that was what I kind of set off to explain and to get people around to talk about. And every time I went to any kind of like social media website or Facebook group, it was doom and gloom and a bunch of like 70-year-old men that were complaining about their joints hurting. And I just thought, that's not the most relatable thing to me. So besides the joints hurting like that, we can talk about that one.
We can all relate to that,
Totally. But I wanted a space that was not toxically positive, but full of hope and gave people the inspiration to find a new direction for themselves in healing or in happiness.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think we can all use that. Even if you don't have, a chronic illness, I think it's just like life is hard. And how do you not let things that are hard define you?
100%. 100%.
So
and everyone has something
to
everyone has something to call in sick about. I talk to my husband who is not chronically sick all the time. If he catches a cold or something, it's like he'll always say to me, man, this is the worst thing in the world. How do you deal with this every day? And I always chuckle. But in the reality, it's like everybody has their own little tsunamis that they're dealing with. And it feels like the end of the world when you're the one living it regardless. So like if there can be a safe space to land whatever tsunami you're facing, it's like, okay, let's make that spot for you.
Yeah. I think about that a lot, actually. I think it's hard when you know that you're dealing with something really difficult and somebody complains about something that feels less than. It's so easy to be like, you motherfucker.
It's so easy to.
But at the end of the day, like you're saying, the true point is like that is something that is very difficult for them. And we shouldn't be comparing in life for the most part. So that feels very real for them. That level of struggle, that level of frustration, that level of hurt is still valid.
Totally.
And that's it's a hard line to walk, but it's always good to find empathy. And I used to like, not truly, I'm still being playful with this, but get annoyed because dealing with PCOS, like my husband is 6'5". His metabolism is the fastest I've ever seen. So he literally eats like
these men?
seriously pounds of pasta. Like for our wedding, he was trying to bulk up. So nice for him. He was eating 5,000 calories a day and having to take like 3 naps because he was so lethargic from working out twice a day and eating that much. I was like, I fucking hate this.
That must be so nice.
So nice for you. He's like, oh, I don't want to eat anymore. I'm like, you know. So yeah, it's interesting when you have opposite problems. Or
truly opposite.
Yeah. As far as, you know, just best friends and partners go, spouses go, he's really there for me all the time. And like that is something that is so necessary when you're dealing with something like this every single day.
We're lucky. We're really, really lucky.
So lucky.
There's so many people that face chronic illness alone or, you know, they just have like I'm saying just, but like they have their family or their friends, but to have someone that's your partner, you can like totally take off the mask with and have all of the fuck them, they have a cold and they're complaining moments. Have that person that it's safe to do that with. I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. Like that is the greatest gift in life.
I completely agree. I had my first seizure when I was 15, and him and his sister, or actually both of his sisters, like went to see me in the hospital. That was like, you know, a big thing. And so it's like he's seen my entire journey, and then obviously finding out about PCOS and all that stuff later when we were dating. It's a lot for them as well. A lot of my husband's life since we started dating, especially since we started living together, has been kind of centered around what I'm always dealing with. So
it's
much
very
of
consuming.
Our life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So much of our life is consumed by my limitations. Yeah. Which, you know, I feel like I carry a lot of guilt around.
How can you not?
Yeah. So it's my question in there is like, do you feel that way? Like, how do you balance that with your partner?
Oh God, yes, all the time. Cooper has sacrificed his career at times, his relationships at times to support me, to be by my side, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of the ways. Yeah. And it doesn't, like, we've been together for 10 years now, and it still doesn't matter how many times he'll tell me, you know, you're not a burden, you're not a burden. It's still a heavy weight to carry that I think is ours to unload, actually. Yeah. But he does have one thing that he reminds me of that has helped tremendously, and it is that his love language, his giving love language, is acts of service. And so his ability to take care of me is like one of the ways that he feels full himself. Yeah. And when he shared that with me, I remember thinking like, oh, okay, so like, you like taking care of me. Yeah. Well, that makes me feel a whole hell lot better. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
And now I'm definitely going to be leaning into that. You can take care of me as much as you would like.
Okay, great. Can you go get me that? No, just kidding.
Yeah. Or you just got in bed. Can I have another cup of water? I think it's part of like the chronic illness identity is that struggle, that internal struggle of, am I a burden? Am I whatever? Yeah. And it all kind of boils down to this like idea of something happening to our bodies that wasn't there one day, or maybe it was there, it just wasn't that extreme. Yeah. And all of a sudden our life got flipped up on its head. And you don't really have that moment to catch your breath and figure out and like wrestle through all of that when it happens because you're in survival mode. Yeah. And so you have these like pockets and windows of feeling good where then you get to face all of the mental fuckery that comes with being sick. And you're like, oh no, my one free time. Now I'm thinking, now I have to go work on my mental health or whatever, my identity. And it's a process. It's a total process. But as long as you keep choosing yourself, I think physically, emotionally, it makes those little isms a little bit easier to carry.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. How do you deal with it?
Oh, yeah, I mean, very similarly. I mean, it used to be a lot darker for me.
Yeah, same girl.
Yeah, like before I got a diagnosis in general, I think there were just so many whys and so many like versions of everything punishing myself because it's like I must be doing, like, what am I doing? I must be doing something wrong.
I'm the fault.
Right? It's like finally when I at least got a name for it, that made a world of a difference. Because
it's really liberating.
Yeah, I mean, like being told that you're imagining things or that you're lying or that you're, by people that are supposed to be the ones to help fix you, is totally like mentally.
It's terrible. It does a number on you.
I mean, really
that is like what I think they probably do in like Guantanamo. Is like, how do I systematically break down someone?
1,000%. How do I gaslight somebody so bad? Yeah. It's a form of punishment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once I got a name for it, that changed everything for me. And then at the same time, it was also then a mental game of like, there are certain things that I love in life that are bad for my illnesses. And so, there is an aspect of like, I do have accountability in this. And like, I do have some control to make my symptoms better or worse. And so it's then managing like what is quote unquote worth it.
Yeah. Totally.
And
everything's really calculated. You have to be.
1,000%. So it's in that way, it was like, okay, at least now I know what my guardrails are. And then after I had Hendrix, I was super lucky and my hormones regulated for the first time. I still have flare-ups. They're just not as extreme. But I also do know that because I'm on my best behavior, if I were to, go a different way when it comes to like food that's not good for me and that sort of thing, I would have a different outcome. So I think that's always in the back of my mind. But I'm in a much better place. I'm in a place where I'm okay talking about it, and it's something that I don't mind sharing. I think there was so much shame around it. Now that I've worked through that, and I'm not so shameful. I still have guilt and I still have like random things that I still carry, but I'm able to share it in a way that I hope help other people.
I find that like sleep and work are the two things I know I have some semblance of control over that I am really, really not great about keeping myself in check with. And they are probably the hardest ones. Like, let's call a spade a spade. It's not the hardest thing in the world to cut out gluten. Like, yes, you have to have discipline. Yes, you have to just like hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Holding yourself accountable when there's things at risk, things on the line, like your financial security or your reputation security, whatever. It is so much harder to give yourself over to healing and being calm and in the now and present instead of borrowing trouble and leaning too far into those aspects of our life. I struggle with it a ton. Obviously, I am currently having to go at that.
I am right there with you. I completely agree. Completely agree. Can you, because I know a little bit about it, but for people that haven't heard your story before, can you tell us just a little bit about what you experienced?
Of course. So I was probably born with this, but I have something called mixed connective tissue disease, or lupus. The diagnosis has changed probably 8 times since I was 6 years old, as they do. I mean, rheumatology was probably the least funded specialty in the 90s, so I'm not that surprised that we had a misdiagnosis.
Yep.
But regardless, I had a wonderful doctor who was still willing to like treat the symptoms. So my autoimmune conditions were relatively in check in childhood and growing up, early adulthood. Was a straight A student, played varsity sports, blah, blah, blah. Went to college, studied finance. Yeah. It's like chronic illness it comes from a certain breed, and it's type A. Yeah. Like, if you were stressed out in high school, you probably have a chronic illness today. That's us.
1,000%. That's really funny.
So I kept pretending like it wasn't something in my life, to be honest. Like it was so normalized to me that, oh, you go to the doctor, you take medications, like whatever. That's just, everyone does that. And
right?
It took going through investment banking. I was so stressed out that entire year. My first week, our associate class quit. So our junior team was halved, and we had to still do all of the work that was needed to get done in an investment bank. It's also a boutique investment bank, and I had horrific sexual harassment. There was not really an HR department.
Great.
And so all of these things started to build and percolate that I was just trying to like push the kettle down. It's not happening. Let's suppress the hell out of it. Got a kidney infection, got strep, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, I can't do this anymore. So I waited it out till I got my bonus, quit my job, and then moved to Austin, sight unseen, into an apartment because my sister was living in Austin. And that fall was fall 2018. I slept like 14 or 16 hours a day and started having these very debilitating symptoms. I couldn't get out of bed to walk my dog. I hired a dog walker to literally walk my dog twice a day because I was so tired I couldn't make that small little walk.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting use of my finances, but you got to do what you got to do when you're in those times. And fast forward, it was February 2019. I had a bump on the bottom of my foot, went to go see a dermatologist, thought I had plantar fasciitis. They biopsied it, and I got diagnosed with something called polyarteritis nodosa. I abbreviate it as PAN. Basically, it's a small and medium-sized blood vessel autoimmune condition where your blood vessels get so inflamed that they stop being able to deliver oxygen and nutrients to different parts of your body. So skin, nerves, organs, you name it, it can be impacted by it. I did not have a great rheumatologist at this time, and they handed me a diagnosis and then a pamphlet that said I had 4 months to live, and I was 24 years old. So my wonderful now husband was like, all right, well, fuck that. Let's get married, I guess, and go and enjoy the rest of this little shindig that we have. And so we got engaged, planned out our wedding. I spent a gross majority of that year in the hospital and in the ER and just trying to duct tape myself together to get down the aisle on our wedding day. And I did. Truly duct taped together on so much prednisone. The devil's tic tac. COVID hit. I started Cytoxin chemotherapy, which is used for breast cancer. It's really aggressive treatment. My hair fell out. I gained 70 pounds because of all of the meds I was on. No longer felt like myself anymore.
Yeah.
And I was 24, 25 years old. So like none of my friends could relate to what I was going through by any means. I don't think anyone had faced family illnesses where someone was told they were going to die. They hadn't faced chemotherapy at this age, really. So it was super, super isolating. And then you layer in COVID during everything. And it's like this fear of living just started building in my body.
Yeah.
Fear of being outside of my home, fear of being inside my own skin. It was terrible. And I started collecting diagnoses at that point. It was like, oh, catch COVID. Now I have dysautonomia. Wonderful. I started having surgeries, and they would cut me open and be like, oh, by the way, you have stage 3 endometriosis. You should probably get that looked at some point. And it was like every single time I went to the doctor, something else populated. And I just felt like I couldn't have a moment of stability in my life. And it was so, so debilitating. But I, as I said earlier, had the sickness. So I was working the whole time like an actual psychopath. Like, what is wrong with me? I know that if I had just maybe paused everything, maybe I could have gotten better. But you know, you can't change the past, and all we can do is look at the future. So it took insurance denying medication that I finally was like, I've got to figure something else out. So I started integrating all these different types of healing modalities into my life and basically like, got out of my own way. I'd been told I was so complex for so long by so many different doctors that they couldn't help me or whatever, that I thought like changing my diet, that's not going to help me. Are you kidding me? Like there's something severely wrong with me. Turns out I had way longer than 4 months to live. That original rheumatologist was uneducated, to call a spade. And the disease that thank God. The disease that I have is, you know, you can pretty well manage it. I'm sure eventually it'll be what tolls my bell, but I know that I can have a really long life regardless, and still a really beautiful life because there's great medications that can manage this disease. And I've had and experienced periods of remission in the last 6 years, which has given me a lot of hope. So
that's amazing.
Today I'm sitting with the disease active again. I had a botched spinal surgery in 2024 that put me out of remission and back into everything being active again. Stress does a number on us.
Yeah.
And I've been rebuilding the pieces kind of ever since. But I think during all of it, like the through line is just keep reinventing myself and like keep finding hope and walking towards any direction I can, because life's short. You got to keep going.
Absolutely. Well, you're incredibly inspiring. And you definitely give other people hope, which
I hope so.
I mean is in general life-saving. So that's incredible. I'm so sorry that you've had to deal with all of those things. One of those diagnoses, was that
I like that. Yeah.
really correct? Just one of those is debilitating. To have all of those together is just, it's unfair.
Candidly, it feels fake. I'm like, really? Like one person can get all of those? Am I lying? Are all the doctors lying to me? What's going on? But I think autoimmune diseases, once you get one, it's like a domino effect.
Endometriosis is incredibly difficult to deal with.
It's one son of a bitch. My God.
It really is. And I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that. I'm assuming then that you have painful periods and deal with a lot of that.
I do. I had my first kind of like endometriosis flare, if you will, when I was 13. But at that time,
You didn't know what it was.
Nobody knew what that was. I mean, it was early 2000s. Nobody knew what that was. Yeah. Endometriosis has been really, really tough. I would say the pain that I've experienced has been debilitating at times. Yeah. And the care that I've had for it, I would say, is kind of subpar, which is disappointing. But I think that's a story that a lot of women can relate to is,
yep,
you know, you're told you have two options, surgery or birth control, and that's it. If you're looking at only Western medicine, and that can shake you if you don't want either of those.
Yeah.
And nobody tells you that there's other options, but there are. You just have to kind of step out of your comfort zone and explore and do a little science on yourself, which is definitely the way that I've managed pain. I from PAN developed something called CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. I don't know if you ever watched Taking Care of Maya on Netflix.
Mm-mm.
It is terrible. It feels like it's a nerve disorder. So the vasculitis attacked my skin and my nerves. I don't have any vital organs that are impacted, which is amazing. So it's called cutaneous PAN with systemic presentations. So my nerves feel like they are on fire. Literally, like my body has a match inside of it, or fire ants biting at it. And Western medicine does not do a great job of controlling that kind of pain. And same with endometriosis pain. Thankfully, there are functional medicine and East Asian medicine that do actually a really good job of managing those kinds of things and do study women's health. Yeah. Shocking. Amazing. Which Western medicine has like failed to do for the last ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. How has it been for you kind of navigating PCOS?
I think I had a mental block as far as like how many things could possibly be connected.
You don't want it to be.
Right. Yeah. You're like, oh, no, that's fine. That's not something. No. Those are separate. That can be fixed. That can be, and no, it's definitely all
Band-Aid.
tied together. Yeah.
Yep.
I had asked so many neurologists if my seizures were connected to my, PCOS or before I had a name for it. I had a suspicion, but I could never prove it. And then once I got diagnosed with PCOS, I really started asking those questions because I had done a little bit of research and found that like there are women that grow out of it and it's like a hormone thing.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the ones that will grow out of it, and that's okay. But that suspicion of hormone, influence was literally laughed at. And that was, it felt, I felt embarrassed, and that's so shitty. And so after asking like a couple times, I was just like, I just stopped asking because of the responses. And then I had this really wacky neurologist in Tennessee. And I just decided, well, he's kind of off the wall. I don't feel like he would take offense to a question like this. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw it out there. And he was like, oh, yeah, totally. That happens all the time. And I'm like, what? What?
I think it's the quirky ones that have done the research and aren't just reading the textbook, oh, yes, that makes sense. Like, that's not what medicine's supposed to be. It's supposed to be consistently doing the scientific method and pushing the boundary. Those quirky doctors.
And questioned.
Yeah. And questioned consistently without defensiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he was the first one to say, yes, that's a thing. Let's see if that pertains to you. And we figured out that I was, my medication for my seizures is working for the most part. But I'm at a higher risk of having a seizure when I'm on my period. And I think actually now when I'm ovulating. So, which makes sense. The 2 times where, my hormones are fluctuating the most in my cycle, that's when I'm more likely to have a seizure. And if I'm super stressed out and I'm not getting enough sleep, or I've been drinking, alcohol, all 3 of those things really impact my likelihood of having a seizure. And so now that I'm having a more consistent menstrual cycle, I can also be a little bit more aware and a little bit more careful at certain times and all of that stuff, figuring that out. And so getting to that place was good. And then my neurologist in California, he is very similar, very quirky. He's been around forever.
Love it.
And is so proactive, which I have never experienced a doctor be this proactive before, which is awesome. I went in for like a general, I know, right? It's like life-changing. I went in for a general consultation and, everything is like, 3 weeks from now, 2 months from now, whatever. He did he was like, well, do you have time today? Like, let's run all of these tests today. I did an EEG on the spot. I was like, who is this man? Like, it's awesome.
I'll kiss you on the mouth. Yes, I will do an EEG right now.
Seriously, I did this stress test. I was like, this is amazing. I love this guy. So that's been super cool. And I obviously talked to him about that in the beginning as far as my PCOS and hormones go. And he just asked so many cool questions and was willing to listen. And he's like, it's funny that you say that. In 2019, they did, these 3 clinical studies on it. And it was just like, oh, well, that's nice to know that that those things actually exist. And I kind of just want to talk to all those other doctors that laughed at me and be like, I hope you remember me. But more importantly, I hope that they're doing enough research where they're updating, what they know and are able to help other women. But those are frustrating times.
The process has gotten so convoluted and there's so much red tape that doctors and researchers have to go through in order to say yes or no comfortably without being sued.
Right.
Let's actually explore this for a patient, which is so unfortunate because it really delays our time to get treated.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that, there are doctors out there that are willing to be the quirky Dr. House character and push the line and take care of us because it does matter.
It does. Ton. Absolutely. And just someone being willing to try. I had another guest on my podcast 2 guests ago, Dr. Ali Abadi, and do you know who she is? She's she's amazing. She has become more of a celebrity doctor, but she specializes in endometriosis and PCOS, and breast cancer. Yeah, she's incredible. She does I think she was one of 6 women or 6 doctors that can do a certain type of surgery. Before she came on my podcast, she did 2 of them in one day. This is crazy.
Of course.
Right before she got here.
Of course.
But she mentioned some really interesting things that I didn't know. One of them being that a lot of people that have endometriosis have leaky gut. And they'll go in and get treated for leaky gut and have a surgery, and then everything will come back, and they'll just get shoved more antibiotics, and doctors won't know what's wrong. But it's very much connected, to your endometriosis. And she has a suspicion that I have it, and so I need to start looking into that and seeing if I do. I have painful periods, but not to me. It's manageable, so I've never really considered that for myself. However, some of the things that she was mentioning, I was like, I gotta go check and at least rule it out.
I think we probably normalize a lot of the endometriosis pain. If you have other things going on, it really puts everything in perspective. So endo pain for me, yes, it's very severe. It is debilitating, but it pales in comparison to the CRPS pain. Mm-hmm. And so that to me was why I didn't go and explore endometriosis surgery for over 10 years, knowing that I probably had it.
Yeah.
You prioritize things. And I
Totally.
think that's a weird thing that we have to do. And honestly, like you said earlier, why do we all weirdly cling together?
Yeah.
Who the hell has to prioritize which disease am I going to go pay attention to this month?
It's so true.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. I mean, so for me, it's I think making sure that I'm just challenging myself to like do what's best for me.
And that can also look like doing nothing. Like health does not consistently have to be optimized and improved and have this goal, but we're type A, so of course we think it does.
Yeah.
But it's okay to just like sit and be okay with the right now, even if there's symptoms there, even if there's bad days there. Like, it's okay that is the middle. It's okay to sit in the middle.
Yeah. I'm not good at that.
I'm not good at it either. I'm trying my best to sit in the middle right now because I definitely feel like that's the chapter I'm in, but it's fucking hard.
Yeah. And to your point about being a workaholic, I prioritize the wrong things. Same. And I often don't practice what I preach.
Same. Oh my God. My mom calls me out on it so hard. She'll be like, Alexandra, you were on your podcast last week saying, don't define your self-worth by your productivity. And what are you doing right now? Oh, fuck.
Don't stop listening.
Exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop being so supportive.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah.
But it's like the through line that connects all of us. So at least if we can laugh about it and, be there for each other when we are at our worst. And by at our worst, I mean pushing ourselves beyond the breaking point of anybody. That's all we can do.
What's a boundary you've had to fiercely protect lately? Because I feel like this is pretty related.
That's pretty related. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. God, I think it is a hard one. I think it's probably like a boundary to myself almost, which is really, really weird to say. But I think I am someone who overthinks and spirals and sits in whatever is going on too much. And I put myself in okay, well, how is this person thinking about it? And then spend my whole day just ruminating on this. And that's not healthy. And that's not good for autoimmunity or chronic illnesses. Yeah. And it absolutely makes me flare up. Good Lord, emotional stress is one of my worst triggers. And I know that. So I think one of my biggest boundaries right now is learning to give myself 10 minutes to stew and then saying you're done and we're going to go do something else and holding myself accountable to that. It's really, really, I think when you first get sick, it's hard to put boundaries against other people. Yeah. And once you get a little bit more comfortable doing that, it's really hard to put boundaries for yourself. And that is the lesson. I turned 30 and realized, oh shit, I have to put boundaries against myself.
I will just second the whole making yourself or you're setting boundaries for yourself. Yeah. I mean, I'm the one that doesn't put enough limitations on myself. I'm the one that's, Isn't
that the worst too? When you're like, damn, I have to actually point the finger at me. I'm responsible on that one. I can't just say it's the disease or just take a pill and make it okay.
Yeah. And it's not anybody else's fault that I said yes to something or that I initiated something. And I think that's the thing is I have so many things that I'm doing and so many things that I want to be doing. And it's my bad for putting an idea out there that is somewhat unattainable or it's not, I feel like I'm better, like you're saying, at setting boundaries for other people. But then in the same token, it's no one else's fault if I have set a bad boundary for myself and they're expecting something. And so I think when we are doing so many different things in business and there are things that are in so many ways very important for, a business or a timeline or something, it's I'm the one that is responsible for making everything so difficult.
Well, and we live in a world that prioritizes urgency and whatnot. So it's so easy to slip into the boundaries that everyone else holds themselves to.
Right.
But we don't fit in that box, and that's okay.
Right. We don't, and we need to act accordingly.
I know. Ugh, the worst.
The worst. Absolutely the worst. But then it's also the hustle. The hustle mentality is glorified, and in so many ways, I love it, and I agree with it to a certain extent. But it can be so negative. And I think the hustle now is different from the hustle, 20 years ago.
It is different. We have technology. We can always be in contact with people.
Yeah. When they put Wi-Fi on planes, I was like, mother.
Seriously, so hard.
Yeah,
I was really looking forward to my nap.
Sacred time that, I am guilty of. I don't do it often. It's only a handful of times where I've lied that Wi-Fi wasn't working on the plane.
Likewise, it's fine. I did it in banking a few times. I was like, oh, Q, I haven't slept in 2 days. I'm sleeping on this 40-minute flight to Midland, Texas.
And I am good at sleeping on planes, so I sometimes cross my fingers that it's not going to work. I'm like,
How do you feel about work and being chronically ill and making a culture? Because you're a CEO and you're a founder of a company. How do you feel about making the culture that is supportive for you and your health and for the people that work with you?
Yeah, I mean, creating a healthy culture at Hippie Water was so important for us, and obviously continues to be. It's one of our highest priorities. I think actually because the nature of our business, the hippie portion of our company, we want to strive for like that health aspect, like making sure that you are prioritizing yourself. And it's not just our employees, it's also our vendors and our consumers and everybody involved. We want to make sure that we're treating everybody correctly and well, to the best of our ability. I think that we have already made certain choices in the foundation of our company to make sure that we are fostering that type of environment. And so I've never been in this type of corporate field before. And so, I'm also leaning on like Saisha, our COO, to kind of, she's been in corporate her entire career, and she's been at the bottom of the totem pole to the top of the totem pole, and she sees what works and what doesn't, and has, learned a lot of lessons, but also has been such a great asset for me as far as figuring out what setting up, our employee manuals look like, and just in general, like what we can afford to have for our employees right now, what we want available, even down to just like the health insurance that we are giving our employees access to, and what that looks like. And I mean, we offer pet insurance even. So, it's like,
can I come work for you? That's amazing.
Absolutely. And so it's just one of those things where you just want to make sure that like people's quality of life is good, because ultimately, in so many ways, it's also a selfish thing. You're going to have a better employee. You're going to have a harder worker when they are taken care of, and they feel like they're taken care of, and that they feel like they're a part of a community. We have an employee that just went through a very difficult thing in her family, and even just for me as a boss, that was the first time I have dealt with a situation like that, where I'm like, you know what, I actually, thankfully Saisha did know, but I was like, I don't even know what our policy is on that. What does leave look like? What's required? What can we give her? How can we support her? And just even figuring out, what that looks like, and understanding like, oh, wow, okay, faced with a challenge like that, we are able to give this much leave, and this type of support. And so it's been healthy for me to just in general be able to set those, for lack of a better term, boundaries. In a way that's way more structured than I've ever dealt with before. So, as far as acting goes and that sort of thing, like, we don't really have that.
No, I was going to say, like, you probably don't call in sick. You don't have sick days. Like, you just keep going. You just keep going, and it's in so many ways very unhealthy. So a good example of that is I kept seizures secret from everybody up until like a year and a half ago. And mainly it was because I didn't want to, and I knew that this would be the response, that I would be capped. They would feel like I, was a problem or a liability. And so,
I would be treated differently. Certain things would be written differently. Like all of you get
be decided for you.
Exactly. There's limitations that get put on you without your consent, really, or your opinion. And as far as structure of filming, it's like, yeah, you very much know that if you call in sick or you're an inconvenience to whatever capacity, you are costing them money. And you are a detriment to the way that something turns out. And that is shitty. So you're going in with that mentality of like, oh, I can't be unwell. I can't be sick. I can't. Yeah. And so COVID was an interesting like turning point in some ways because it was like everybody was all of a sudden super conscious about people being healthy. Well, yeah. But also in a toxic way. And so it was also then kind of like, you know, if you're the one that got people sick, you were the problem, and like you're you're the reason we're all taking, you know, whatever break for a certain period of time. It's generally speaking so fun. I love being on set. It's my happy place. Like it's such an amazing job. I'm so lucky that I get to do that for a living. But there are so many toxic parts of our industry. And I would say that is the toxic part about being on set is you're working extremely long hours. You definitely, after you wrap, like your turnaround time, you are choosing between sleep, spending time with the people that you love, and doing whatever you can to decompress. You're making a choice every single day during the week. Like you can't do all three. You got to choose one, and that sucks, and that is super shitty. So it's you know, you got to be resilient and make sure that you're doing what you can to stay healthy. But there's not a lot of wiggle room there. And so setting the stage in a different business, in a different industry, and you know, it was really cool to be able to be like, oh, okay, you know, or the company can't afford X, Y, and Z right now, but when we can, we are going to leave room for this so that, you know, our employees get to just love what they do and like what we're building. And with a startup, you're already expecting a lot more from an employee that you would you know, before.
So many different hats,
so many different ways of, you know, just being scrappy, being in the weeds, you know.
Jump ball when things break.
Exactly. You know, you're just always pivoting.
Yes.
And it's fun and it's a thrill, but also very stressful. And so navigating that, but honestly, like I would just say that it was such an achievement when we were able to provide benefits.
That is a huge milestone.
I was genuinely shocked that we were like, okay, we're at this stage and this is what we get to provide. Like, this is so exciting. And to be a female-founded business, being able to like offer maternity leave that's actually meaningful, paternity leave, like certain types of things that a lot of people don't get is awesome.
Isn't that beautiful though, that like, I don't know if it comes from being chronically sick, but that's the milestone of a win for you, is being able to provide these beautiful and amazing benefits for your employees and the people that are building this dream with you. I think when you are sick, you see the world so differently. Yeah. And it's a good thing. Like, that's totally, a really you don't take milestone. It for granted.
Let's definitely talk about Hot Start.
Yes.
Okay, so I love Hot Start. And so and obviously I love Scott. And so Scott Vanderberg, that's who I met initially. When we launched Hippie Water, he was running Celeb Syndicate. And that he was, I mean, honestly, from the very beginning, our biggest cheerleader. He was just in any way, shape, or form wanting to help. And that was so refreshing because it was like, you don't know us. You are on the other side of the world. You like our idea. You know, we get along. But like, he had really, it was just like out of the kindness of his heart. And
he's not a transactional he's transactional, but he's not a transactional person in relationships. And that's what sets him apart.
Absolutely. And so he was just so wonderful, just in general, getting to know him, being able to use his syndicate for our first pre-seed round. And then building on that. And so I knew, I was like, he's he's going to grow. He's going to, the way that he builds relationships, the way that he just connects people and the way that he goes about things, like he's going places.
Totally agree.
And so when he introduced me to Chelsea, your sister, she was also so lovely and so wonderful, had a very similar mentality. And so when Hot Start became a thing, Hot Start, for people that don't know, is a VC specializing in celebrity-founded companies. And you, Alex, being a part of Hot Start, it was like an immediate yes when you asked me to come on board. I was like, there is no doubt in my mind that I want to be a part of this. You talk about fostering an amazing environment. I feel it. It radiates that positive nature, that wanting to grow, that investing both money and time into people that are doing good things is prevalent. So I'm super excited for where that's going to go, and I'm so happy that you want me on board. That was a huge honor.
We're so excited to have you on board. Are you kidding me? You emanate this like energy of like passion that is unparalleled. Oh, you see something that you want to do and you do it and you execute on it, but you don't execute it on it at the sacrifice of other things. And I think that's what sets you apart as a founder, is like you have this vision, you're going to go after it, but you're going to pull everyone up with you as you do it. And that thesis of like the tide rises all ships is you. And I think that for Hot Start, like that's what we want to see in every single one of our founders, is that they have a good idea, they can execute, but they also are a good person and they're going to pull together their team to make it success.
I really appreciate that. I'm going to try and take the compliment.
Take the compliment, girl. We're working on that boundary. We're accepting the compliments.
Trying to accept the compliments. Yes. I truly appreciate that. And to your point about rising together, I have always felt that way. In every sort of career or industry that I've been a part of, that is something that, especially with other women, is a huge priority for me. It's a, how do we, help each other up the ladder. It's not a, let me stand on your head as I climb. It does not need to be that way. And it really bothers me when I come across people like that, especially women, because we don't need to be fighting each other. That's the last thing that we should be doing. And so, that's a big priority. And I appreciate you for seeing that. And I respect it when I see it in other people. I definitely see it in you and what you're building. And so, it's exciting. It's like, that's how we make meaningful businesses and relationships and things that are sticky. There are so many terms that I use now, I'm just going to sidestep into this, that irritate the shit out of me that I use them.
Yes.
Sticky is one of them. There's a language that is spoken, and it started with LinkedIn, and now it's just moved on to so many different things. Becoming a CEO, oh my gosh, any sort of meeting, I'm like, I know way too many acronyms that than I did 2 years ago. In terms like sticky are just
sharpen our pencils on this one.
Oh my gosh,
that one's my least favorite.
High level. I mean, the amount of times that high level. I'm going to give you a high level breakdown. Oh my god,
it makes me want to rip my fingernails out of my hands.
And it's funny because when somebody else says it, it doesn't bother me as much. But when it comes out of my mouth, I'm
cringe
like, how did
hard when I say
it? How did this happen? That I have been indoctrinated, and that is okay. I'm happy that I can speak the language.
You have to, unfortunately. Finance people like to make really easy things sound super complicated by just throwing catchphrases on it.
Yeah. And in the same way, though, I can say all of those phrases and sound like I know what I'm talking about. And that's okay, too.
And you do. You do know what you're talking about.
Do.
Like, you're doing it live, sister.
I'm building, and I'm proud of it. I am super proud of it. And, I feel like that is how my industry has actually helped me, is that I learn on my feet. I have since I was a little girl. I started when I was 5. And if I don't know how to do that yet, then there's something wrong. So I do know how to do that. And it has definitely helped me stepping into the CEO role and figuring out CPG in general, which is difficult in itself. People that have done
Yes,
this
it
for
is.
years, you know, it's a lot. It is a lot. It is expensive to ship water. I could go on and on and on and on about all of that, but
CPG is
it
one
has
of the
been really
hardest
fun.
places to build in historically. Consumer always is, which is bizarre because that's what everyone loves the most, honestly. Like,
I
who the fuck wants to
know.
talk about SaaS? I'm sorry, but I really don't want to sit around a table and just talk about the cloud all day.
The cloud.
Consumer is cool. Consumer is so cool,
Yeah,
but it's hard.
it is
And
hard.
that's what makes it even cooler, though. I think it's every milestone, every win is that much more meaningful because
Yeah,
there's so much more grit and tears and hard nights behind it
yeah.
than coding and building something like that. Not to discredit all of my
Your tech
coding
friends, I
founders
know.
out there, all my tech friends, but
Dude, tech is a whole other world.
it's a whole other world. It's a oof, yeah. Yes, it is.
My co-founder and dear friend, obviously, Alex, comes from the tech side, from tech in general. So I do have insight into that. But the more people I meet in tech, I'm like, you are a different breed.
A totally different breed. You have
Talk
to
about a
eat,
different
sleep, and
language.
love what you are doing, or
You
that
will.
industry will spit you out.
Oh,
You have
yes.
to eat, sleep, and breathe.
Totally.
There's no recharge days in the tech
No.
space.
Yeah, everybody is nocturnal. They all, yeah, it's wild. They are wild. But I respect it.
Me too.
I
I mean,
respect that
damn.
different type of hustle. That is a different level.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's cool. It's cool to learn about all of these different types of companies and industries and what it takes to win in those spaces. I never thought I would be in not only cannabis, but CPG in general. I never, ever thought that I would be on this road. And I've made so many amazing friends, have met so many incredible people along the way. And that's been so cool. And that hasn't even been that long yet.
No,
In July, Hippie Water will be a year old as far as
that's
launch goes, which is
wild,
crazy.
Sasha.
So crazy. And so that's also nice. It's like, okay, I do know that I have learned a ton in just a year. And I'm excited, if this is what I know already now, I'm really excited for, 10 years from now to see where we are there. And you're right, though, just in general, CPG, it's like every milestone, it's like, it feels like it feels bigger. It feels like a bigger achievement compared to just, I don't know, other industries. Because it's like,
I agree.
what
You have
it
to
takes to
really
get there.
win.
You
have
got
to
to really
win
want
at
it.
every level. Yes, seriously.
Yeah, you do.
Did you have an entrepreneurial bone in you before Hippie Water?
I didn't know that I did, but I definitely did, and I think the entertainment industry is, it's the wild wild west in a different
Yeah.
way, and so I didn't realize how much that pertained to this industry. Like
That makes sense. And I think there's a lot of
similarities.
crossover, actually.
Yeah. And I think the startup world is, and I think that's why the startup world works for me, is because I'm used to being my own business. And so a startup is very similar, where it's like, it's bare bones and anything that happens is on you, good or bad. It is
the buck
all a
stops.
reflection of you. And people they're investing in you. A startup, it's like, yeah, they're investing in the idea. And, if you already have a product at the time, in the very, very beginning, but truly they're investing in you. They're investing in your team. So much of that is a world that I'm familiar with. And so that transition was easy. Learning the ropes as far as, running a company. Yeah, those are things that I've had to learn on my, just learn quickly, learning on my feet. But it helps that our other founders are so knowledgeable and have lived the startup life time and time again. I don't think that, Hippie Water would be what it is right now if it was not for them. And so I think we all bring our own skill set, and that is, it's, that's vital. That's why we are successful, is because our team and what we started with, we all had a different strength that formed
And that's
form the foundation.
That's early stage investing. I mean, obviously, like the
Yeah.
product, the idea has to be there, but candidly, like when I sit down and I'm diligencing any opportunity,
Yeah.
the number one thing I look for is team and team cohesiveness. And it's,
Yeah.
is there equity, not just financial equity between the founders or the starting employees? Is there equity in thought and
Yeah.
ideas and respecting each other's special sauces? And if that magic formula is correct,
Yeah.
then that team can go anywhere. You can swap out the product and the idea. It does not matter. It's that group of people that create something so phenomenal.
So true.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. And I think that is something that we like, we're four friends, two married couples going into this business and understanding that we all bring something very special and that is that person's skill set. And so, like Taylor creating our beverages, like from scratch, it's her formulation. Like I trusted her to make an incredible product because I knew what she was capable of. And she did. And so, I would never in a million years be like, I know how to create that formula better than her. So as long as, you're going into it respecting everybody's position and what they're doing, then I think it's successful. But I think, we definitely got a couple of eyebrow raises when it came to like, oh, you're two married couples? Are you sure? Or you're
You have a death wish right now?
Yeah, I know. It's like, I know we're breaking two rules. Don't get into business with friends and family. Here we are. We're doing both. But it's been really rewarding. It's been a really great journey. And I love that you understand, both sides of that. What I love too about like our generation, is the fact that we are so busy. Obviously, we pack our schedules and our time, and we don't listen to our own advice and all of those things. But it isn't necessarily that normal office job or what a lot of people would consider a real job. And I find that fascinating. But I'm so happy that we have like a grind mentality in that way. We can work from home. We can make our own cup of coffee from our kitchen and get a crazy ton of shit done.
So much. Oh my gosh. And being entrepreneurial and chronically ill is like the best combo ever. I had no idea.
Yep.
No idea. But it works really nicely.
Totally. And I think that's also something that's addicting for me. And what is so fulfilling about building Hippie Water is that it's so different than anything else that I've done. Even with all of those synergies, it's like, okay, wait, as an actor, it's really hard to be proactive. Other than like fine-tuning your skills, you're still waiting on that meeting or that audition or that lucky break or that chance or that, and I think a lot of actors too are finding like, okay, no, I have to figure out something else. If it's writing, producing, if it's not in the industry, whatever it is. And I think building Hippie Water has been so good for my mental health because it's pushed me and challenged me in a way that I had never thought that I was honestly capable of. I'm like, I was homeschooled. I like barely graduated high school. It was like just to work adult hours, which is kind of messed up in its own way. So the fact that like I'm like a boss, I'm somebody's boss. Yeah. Are you sure? But it's so rewarding because it's proving to myself every single day that I can do this, that I can build something else that wasn't. Even though acting is and writing and producing and all, that whole lane is something that fulfills me, I don't have to be defined by just that. I can build something else and build it well, and that's cool. And I can do that from home, and I can do that while my kid is running around. And it's such a unique space, and I understand that like serial entrepreneur mentality
bug.
Yeah, that bug and why it's so meaningful. And super cool. Okay, so I have a side question. I have gotten versions of this over, let's say I'm almost 32. I'm almost 30, comma 2.
You also don't look like you could be near 30 at all.
Yeah, well, I have wrinkles and I have to get my roots touched up every 2 weeks because I've got grays. So But I appreciate it. Again, I'll try to take the compliment. There are times where it's like, I feel like people think that you need to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. Now, you are stunning.
Thank you.
You definitely fall into the bracket of somebody that like is show stopping when you walk, down the street.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
Take the compliment. And so have you ever gotten that like you don't fit the so-called box, so you're dismissed? Is that something that
God, yes. So many times and so many different directions I want to go on that question. Because I think it impacts us in different ways in different venues of our life. So like at work, if you don't look sick, people have the expectation of you that you need to be performing and delivering at a certain level. There's less, I think, empathy maybe surrounded around your illness if you don't look sick.
Yeah.
If you don't look sick in the medical field and you're trying to get someone to take you seriously, it can be very challenging to not look sick. I remember like getting a formula down of like, okay, I can wear mascara, but I can't wear concealer if I go see the doctor because I need them to see how tired I am. What do I wear? How does that impact how I'm perceived? Mm-hmm. On social media, I don't look sick. That is very, very true. I only look sick when I am like at the doors of death, probably, and like really not fucking doing well.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really hard thing to sit with at times. I think it can be a superpower.
Yeah.
Because when you don't want people to know, they're not going to know. But what's hard is when people can't see that you're struggling and you are struggling. And then you have to rely on communication alone. And so much of human interactions is not verbal communication.
People suck at communicating.
And people suck at communicating. And so you get boiled down to this like really like basic and very like old school way of trying to show people or prove to them that you're sick enough. Yeah. And that is a heavy burden to carry. Like to prove that you are worthy of being sick.
Yeah.
It's a weird mind fuck. Yeah. Really, really weird mind fuck. And I think the one thing that's like really helped me with it is to know it's not my job to convince somebody if I'm sick enough to get the love that I want, to get the empathy that I want, to get the care that I want, to get the pause or compassion that I want. It's not my job.
Yeah.
The only job that I have is to put up the words that I need of, I'm not feeling well today and I need blah.
Yep.
That's it. And if you take everything else off of your plate for that whole communication pathway, it stings a little bit less.
Yeah.
Over time.
So true.
How do you handle it?
I feel like I've gotten so good at kind of just being numb. For so long, it was like I definitely had a mental block. Like I can't look sick. So to your point, like the superpower of like, okay, I have to always look a certain way. Mm-hmm. That burden is hard and it sucks.
And compounded with you being in the public eye, that is
it's a different
10x harder.
It's a different one. So when I do look sick to whatever capacity, I feel just I guess depressed.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like how do I solve this as fast as possible, because in so many ways it affects my livelihood, which sucks.
It does suck. And also feeling like you're something that has to be solved sucks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of layers to that. And so I think ultimately it's support system. Like it's definitely like it's Hudson for sure. And I think also to add to the hippie water thing, like building something else that doesn't rely on my looks, super helpful.
Super helpful. So cathartic.
Yeah, like for my own self-esteem, for my self-worth, all of those things. Like, yes, we use me as a founder a lot. Of course. But it's a genuine story. Like it is truly based on my health and why I chose it. And yes, there's an aspect of like my face in that, but it is different. It's a different reason. And so building this has been great for my own self-worth when it comes to the visual side as well, like both physically, and mentally. So Yeah, I think it's just a lot of forcing myself to just check in with myself. Therapy.
Yeah. Oh God, we love therapy.
We love therapy. My therapist told me I'm very self-aware. So I'll take that compliment. I'm very self-aware, but I'm not as good as at implementing the things that I should. So I think it's just constantly making it a priority to work on myself. That's how I deal with it. That's not a great response, but I think it's more so just that it's a journey. Trying to sometimes have thicker skin and other times not be numb. It's like a seems silly, but I'm choosing the wrong things at the wrong time, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And do you find that like when you don't look sick, you push yourself harder? Like you have a harder time putting boundaries on yourself?
Yeah.
I like slip into like, oh, well, people think this, they can expect X, Y, Z of me. So I should also
I need to do
right
X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's the self boundary we're working on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. I loved this conversation, and I know a lot of people will too, because there are a lot of us out there and we need each other. So thank you so much, Alex, for speaking about your experience and being an outlet for people, just in general, creating a community where people feel seen. So really appreciate you and what you provide. And on a personal side, I'm so happy that we are friends and that we will also be in business together. Those are very exciting things.
Me too. It is such a treat to know you and be in your orbit. And thank you for being also so open and brave about sharing your health story. I think the more, we can be raw and vulnerable, the more other people have permission to do it too. And God, life's so much easier when you don't have to pretend.
Agreed. Cheers with our mocktails to that.
Amen. Thank you for having me on. This was a blast.
Absolutely. Bye. Bye.